Hazard in Season 16 of Overwatch is kinda disappointing. His design isn't bad, but the ideation phase of this concept had some really interesting stuff. But it would be too difficult to integrate that into the game because of how out there the concept is. Blizzard is a $74 billion company. If anyone has the resources to struggle and pull through with this crazy, innovative gameplay idea, it's them. Another thing I know I've talked about before in Overwatch, and is maybe a really exhausted topic of conversation if you know me, is Venture skins. Even though this isn't as relevant now as they finally have their first skin since midsummer from the Avatar crossover event, a lot of people are saying, oh, they don't have a lot of skins because their model is probably really hard to model cosmetics over. I bring this up because let's say it is the case. Let's say that the reason they don't have as many skins is because their model is really hard to model cosmetics for. Blizzard has nearly endless resources. You can absolutely make a skin if you put in any effort. Now, I think it's unrealistic to ask for huge budget and effort for a skin for a character that has literally less than 1% of a pick rate. But returning to Hazard, this is a new addition to the roster. A new character in a hero shooter fundamentally changes the way the game is played. But also, like, gameplay aside, I don't really like him as a character. I don't want to explicitly say, oh, I hate Hazard, or whatever, because he's so new, there's still so much to learn about him as a character. But here he has a comic explaining his full backstory alongside a lot of character interactions. I don't want to present myself as an expert on punk, and especially not Scottish punk culture, but one major part of why I'm not super fond of Hazard is because he feels like an incredibly shallow interpretation of punk. Already, having a punk character made by a multi-billion-dollar corporation that lays off thousands of artists regularly and doesn't handle workplace discrimination well is a little oxymoronic, but I don't want that to immediately eliminate Hazard from being a good punk character, because I consider characters like Spider-Punk to be a well-written punk character, and maybe his best appearance is in a movie made by Marvel and Sony. So putting that aside, Hazard's comic shows he used to be in the military, but then defects to the Freaks after an accident happens. An accident fuels him to leave, after his injuries, which would cripple a person in real life, are completely solved using cybernetics, and he's even paid by the government. Not hush money, mind you, he's paid like petty cash. And when this politician speaks out on the issue, Hazard feels a huge amount of disdain against him. But like, none of these people wronged him? He was left injured after the accident, yeah, but his cybernetics, which were given to him by the government, leave him not disabled. He's even stronger, really. It would be messed up if he was injured from the event and was just left crippled and borderline limbless, but that's not what happens. So much of his inner monologue in his comic is just him going, ooh, the system, grrr, but like, you're never addressing why the system is bad, or even what's wrong with it. The system is what fixed him and gave him cybernetics. He benefits from the system. There's even this interaction he has in-game, which I find incredibly ironic. If he's in a team with Ashe, Sojourn, or Reinhardt, he'll ask him if their hair is dyed/bleached. All of them reply, respectively in their own way, right? Basically saying, no, it's natural. These interactions, at least in the way I'm interpreting them, are telling us that Hazard dyes his hair and assumes that these guys do too. I'm not saying you're fake if you want to change your hair color, but I feel like it's kind of funny. He just assumes that these characters have changed their self in the way he's voluntarily changed himself. But no, that's just their authentic self. As a character, Hazard feels incredibly shallow, writing-wise. Blizzard wants to have an anti-institutional, counterculture character without actually challenging mainstream culture. Whenever the topic of AAA companies and what they're expected to do is brought up, I always go back to Mass Effect 3. Just so you know, Mass Effect 1 and 2 were made completely by BioWare, and ME2 was published by EA. Then, BioWare, they still got to make the third installment in the franchise, but it was heavily impacted by what EA wanted from it. I still think that ME3 is a fantastic game, but it's very apparent that there was a change in direction when you look at stuff like the infamous ending, which is probably the first thing a lot of people think of when ME3 is brought up, and the Day 1 DLC that kind of breaks the established lore. And no, they do explain why Javik outsurvives the rest of the Protheans, but it's really obvious the mission is just there for you to spend extra money on the game upon release. And this trend just keeps happening over and over again with Cyberpunk, Redfall, Sonic Frontiers, Alien, Colonial Marines, Watch Dogs, Starfield, and so many more were pretty much unplayable upon release after years of hype and kind of misleading trailers. I'm definitely not the first person to address these games as being massive disappointments, and that's not really what I want this video to be about, because games being playable or even having some form of content in them is really the bare minimum. I specify AAA games here not because just the funding, but also because the promises they make. An indie studio, I think, shouldn't be obligated to technologically innovate with their games, because indie projects are made out of passion, and because this idea from a developer just has to get made. It's absolutely amazing when indie studios overcome hardware or software difficulties, but they shouldn't be expected to do amazing things in that way. If an indie game is janky and super hard to navigate, it's an issue, yeah, but they aren't working with the $100 million blockbuster budget that a AAA game has to work with. But Baldur's Gate 3, thumbs up. I love Baldur's Gate, and I will forever look to it when I am faced with any problems. My advice to any AAA studio is to be more like Larian. I love you, Larian Studios. That's my advice. Thank you for watching. If you want more epic videos, hit the hand, hit the thumb, and smack that subscribe button. Also, Marvel Rivals is finally out for console. I'm working on a video for that, mainly about the character design again, but really just my overall thoughts on the game. Let me know what you think about Season 14. Let me know what you think about Marvel Rivals. Let me know what you think about Baldur's Gate. Or just, I don't know, man. Comment your favorite cat. Bye!